Video games chasing the film industry is nothing new. A lot of discussion comes up about it these days due to the huge prevalence of games like The Last of Us and the newer God of War games. Really, most first-party Sony games. I would say these games tend to chase films in a very big blockbuster Hollywood kind of way, which doesn't make them invalid as games, as some would claim, but more clear that the writers in ways really want to be making TV shows or films. I mean, that Last of Us HBO series exists for a reason. But the reality is that video games have been emulating or capturing the feeling of film while adapting their vibes in the way only video games really truly can for quite a long time now. The survival horror genre especially wears this on its sleeve. Haunting Ground and Clock Tower with their clear giallo inspirations and aspirations, Silent Hill and its love of Jacob's Ladder among other psychological horror, and Kindergarten Cop. Hell, the way that fixed cameras especially can be used in order to really place and set up a shot or really go for something far more cinematic to it. Hell, that's why I kinda miss the days when older JRPGs would use more pre-rendered backgrounds and fixed camera angles. You can set a mood and a tone, do things with the camera to rouse excitement or even stir dread in the player depending on the scenario in the game. Shout out Fantasian! Games themselves are a combination of different mediums, and film naturally is going to slot into that. But to me, what makes games special isn't them chasing Hollywood, it's how they can make you feel a certain way as a part of that special and unique experience. It's all in the interactivity and how it makes you feel a part of that. And I think in the chasing of fidelity, some have lost sight of the special ways in which games can bring you into the feeling of films while still being their own thing as video games. Like, we should have respect for this medium. Inspiration is everywhere, and conscious decisions are made to emulate and bring the player into things the way only games can. We don't need to be insecure because certain people may not take them seriously, because at the end of the day, who cares about the approval of someone who doesn't respect the medium for what it's capable of? Like, I'm sorry, if you can't see why Illbleed is peak, you will not see the pearly gates. You can go and watch John Wick right now, but can you play and feel like John Wick? Absolutely. And to me, it's this mix of inspiration meets talent willing to form that into the design and meat of games that makes video games so fascinating. Inspiration can come from anywhere. It's all about the feel and vibes, capturing that action movie feel. A lot of games have captured those action movie inspirations like Max Payne, but outside of games like the Disaster Report series, I tend to not see as much aping or really trying to translate the feeling of disaster films in the same way. It feels like a bit of an untapped genre in a number of ways. Either that or maybe I'm just not paying enough attention. But I will say, this hole in the market has finally led me to a little known game by the name of Disaster Day of Crisis. Disaster Day of Crisis is such a fascinating game to me. It's this strange curiosity that we in the US had no access to, even though, if anything, I feel like had it gotten properly marketed and gotten a chance, it probably could have done at least okay here given all it appeals to. Like, it came in while the disaster movie craze was still pretty widely loved and generally successful. It was a big exclusive game from the then Nintendo-acquired Monolith Software, developers of the Xenosaga series. This was their big branching out game. Doing something while still narratively driven was far more action-focused than their previous titles. It felt like an interesting departure, but unfortunately, due to a number of factors, such as low sales in Europe and Japan, and Reggie, we just weren't allowed to experience peak. Also, let's be real here, if this had come out in the States, can you imagine how absolutely horribly racist the X-Play review would have been? That would have been crazy. But with the power of the Wii and doing some things to it, now I can finally experience this game like I've been wanting to basically since I first found out about it. And God, am I more than happy to find out about it. The DNA of Disaster Day of Crisis is made up of everything it chooses to pull from and bring together. The gameplay being a mix of light gun shooters, Disaster Report-esque gameplay, though I'm saying this as someone who hasn't played much of any Disaster Report game really at all, so I could be off on that, with a variety of constant gimmick changes to keep the player invested. There's constantly and consistently something changing within the game. You're never doing a lot of the same thing the whole time you're playing Disaster. Different scenarios and different disasters end up calling for different interactions with your environment. environment. So sometimes you're helping put out a building fire with a fire hose, sometimes you're running from an earthquake, sometimes you're resuscitating someone and trying to restart their heartbeat with a fun little minigame, sometimes you're trying to get through an ashy location post-volcanic eruption. It really does its best to make you feel right there constantly and consistently within the action and the chaos of the disasters. The game is constantly driving home the importance of saving civilians through getting things like health upgrades from some of the more involved and easily missable ones, or even items they give you throughout the game. Driving home more and more of Ray, the main character's drive to try to get back on the horse and save everybody that he can after the tragedy of losing his best friend to a rogue volcano. That gameplay, mixed with its constant pulling from the films that clearly inspired it as well. It pulls from films such as Dante's Peak, the volcano-related levels, driving up to the base, taking in the splendor of nature around you before watching it all collapse and having to travel through the aftermath of it all. Though this adding a gunfight with a bear as well. No acid lake scene though, damn. Iris's parents' car is also kinda similar to the mayor's car in Dante's Peak. Tiny bit of a stretch, but I think it's something. Same with Iris's family's cabin close to the mountain as well, being reminiscent of the grandma's cabin in that film. One section is very reminiscent of Hard Rain, the flooded streets, the gunfights through the floods, running away from floodwater, having to sneak around a tiny bit past the enemy there to get you, the water rising higher and higher and shit escalates as it goes on. I don't think this one is as one-to-one, but I do feel like the influence is absolutely there. Honestly, this level was one case where I wished it took a little more direct inspiration and we got like a boat shootout section, but at least we get the church shootout and a small swimming section. And I could continue on with this, like they take from Daylight a little bit, they take from Twister a tiny bit, though unfortunately no tying yourself down using a belt to survive a big ass tornado, using the motion controls to keep your grip, the absolute cowards. But outside of direct homage, I think what's important to understand here is that it captures the feeling of playing these movies and understands the structure of why disaster films work when they work. Disaster films at their core tend to understand the general idea of the unity that comes from natural disasters. The idea that in a crisis, we would hopefully want to help our neighbors, making sure those you know are safe along with those in your communities, doing your best to survive, helping people out when and where possible, and hoping that in that scenario, they would do the same for you. Even if the logic is a bit cheesy when it comes to real life, disaster films, especially the best ones, have a kind of sweet and earnest sentimentality that you either rock with or you don't, and personally, I think this game captures that sentimentality and that vibe absolutely dead on, and I think it manages to capture this feeling very well through its gameplay. For all the crazy destruction and set pieces you see, one of the core things you are constantly doing is helping people out, restarting their hearts, getting them food or supplies, getting them somewhere they can't get on their own. It's all about helping people, and just as important as the destruction is to the structure of disaster films, so is the human side of wanting to help others. It's the mixture of humanitarianism and absolute chaotic destruction that makes these work, and that's exactly why Disaster Day of Crisis works as well. For every single insane, crazy-ass thing that happens, there's some gentler moments, more human moments that really work here. One of my favorite parts of the game is once you're through Blue Ridge City and you wash up at the local park. It's the first bit of real downtime you've gotten. You see people sitting around, collecting themselves, trying to figure out where their loved ones are, or just despairing at all the destruction. Some people are around helping others where they need it. This downtime even gives you the chance to help a few people out yourself. I also love the touch of if you choose to destroy any of the boxes for supplies laying around, the people around those boxes chastise you for it a bit. Like such a fun detail and a reminder that like every little bit counts in situations like this. Or the segment leading up to the volcano section where you're just driving up the mountain and Ray is just talking to himself, reflecting on things that have happened, how he feels he failed others, how he couldn't face his best friend's sister after he died. It's such a small touch of humanity that adds to the feel and vibe of disaster films as a genre.
Am I gonna save Lisa? Will she just be another casualty of my incompetence? She must hate me for letting her brother die, and rightfully so. I could see it on her face, even from across the room. I couldn't even give her the compass Steve gave me. Once again, I've failed my friend, and there's no way I can atone for it now. Damn it! What's wrong with me? I've gotta concentrate.
It reminds me of the scene in Dante's Peak where Paul apologizes to Harry when the volcano goes off. It's small writing touches like that that I genuinely think are extremely important to a genre that is so human at its core. This game captures that beating heart while mixing it with another quite more famous film as well, possibly even two. Now, like I said before, while there are sections that I would call like Dante's Peak and like Hard Rain, I'm not saying that the game lifts the plots of those directly. While yes, there are similarities, it's a lot more gameplay ideas and vibes. It mixes them deep into its fun, humanitarian, time crisis and disaster report-esque package to do something neat with, using these to dress the setting to really immerse the player in all of the tragedy going on. So when I say this next part, I mean this with my full chest. I know the difference between homage and inspiration and just the direct thing. This game's main plot is flat out just The Rock. Like, the main plot with Surge is quite literally almost beat for beat just The Rock. Though I'd describe the opening of the game as more the opening of Cliffhanger, though not as one-to-one as The Rock comparisons, to be very fair on that one. Two guys, on a rescue team no less, are somewhere either doing their jobs, or in Cliffhanger's case, one of them and their girlfriend are being rescued. In both cases, something goes wrong. In Cliffhanger, Hal's girlfriend dies, while in Disaster, the best friend, Steve, dies, and the result is the main character leaves the rescue service for desk work, while whoever survives the dead character now blames the main character for the death. In Cliffhanger's case, that's Hal blaming Gabe, and in Disaster, that's Lisa blaming Ray for Steve's death. And the story's dealing with both characters being pulled into a situation, and in turn, dealing with that guilt and grief. So again, this one is maybe more flimsy, but personally, I do think given all the other influences this game is clearly rocking, I wouldn't rule it out, is all I'm saying. But now, the rest of the plot, which legit, again, is just The Rock. A specialist in a specific field is pulled into a mission with special forces due to their specific skills. In The Rock, Stanley has very little combat experience, while Ray is an ex-Marine. Both tag along for a mission and do their best to make it through each scenario, while the villains are constantly plotting their doomsday plots and making demands and threats towards the government, along with Surge being this secret task force the government used on operations and then abandoned once they weren't needed any longer, refusing to publicly acknowledge them at all, just like the secret military group antagonists in The Rock. Though in Disaster, they explicitly specify in doing operations in extremely harsh conditions, which is a fun addition. Now, where I'd say Disaster differs is that you get a bit more time with specific antagonistic characters, like one of my favorites being Gregory, who is this insane, goofball helicopter pilot mercenary who just really wants to kill people.
I'll tell you what, let's make a deal. You hand it over and not only will I spare you, I'll give you a lift away from that big-ass wave. Have it your way. Die!
Bro flies in guns blazing at you for that nuke detonator briefcase. Yes, 3 nukes instead of a super virus, which is another fun change that more fits the Disaster vibes, I think. And you kick his ass. He crashes down, but he ain't out. You fight him on foot, and then, when you beat him, he fucking straps a goddamn bomb to himself and says,
"Hey! Know what this is?"
What?
Now pay attention carefully. This is the bomb. This is the detonator. With a simple push of the button, boom! If you shoot me, boom! We go sky high! So come on, pal! Shoot me!
and he absolutely will make good on that promise. I fucked that up by accident multiple times. Just the sorest, loserist ass behavior. It's funny as fuck, and genuinely, shit like this throughout the game, along with like Major Evans, played by Ruben Langdon, who is just this speedy goofball guy who keeps telling you where the villains are going while also trying to kill you.
Guess this match is a draw, Ray. No problem. It bought us enough time. Can't wait to do it again.
Wait! Ah!
Hey, in case you're wondering, we're headed for Bainesville next. I look forward to seeing you there, Ray.
What's he playing at?
This aspect generally reminded me of like Metal Gear Solid bosses, and one even more so reminding me of Revolver Ocelot a little bit. But if Ocelot was a bit more southern US and also didn't betray everybody constantly, you know what I mean?
Look at that! See that? 5 minutes, kid. 5 minutes till that tsunami hits here. We got that long to settle this.
But the villains are still arguing amongst themselves about what their exact goal is, whether or not they're actually bluffing the government about how serious they are about what they plan to do. So in the Hard Rain-esque level, Ray gets captured by the villains. He convinces the commander to save some kids on a roof, at least, while his goons very cartoonishly try to tell him not to do that, even though they're like not that far away from them, and it'd be really simple to save them real quick.
You have a helicopter, right? If you order your men to do it, you can save those kids!
Let me shut him up for good, Colonel.
Colonel, please!
Colonel!
I love how much Banks just wants these kids dead. Like, what the fuck, man? This speaks a lot to the Colonel's actual want to help people, even if he's been threatening to nuke the world. Just like General Hummel in The Rock being extremely hesitant to shoot the Special Forces guys, even begging his guys to cease firing, along with the scene of him getting the kids off of the Rock before the takeover happens. So while Ray is captured, probably the most one-to-one The Rock scene in the game finally happens. Evans and the lead mercenary Banks, who's kinda like a combination of Tony Todd's Merc character and the other lead Merc character in The Rock, are basically begging the Colonel to launch the nukes, just like everybody begs the General to launch the virus in The Rock. The Colonel ends up deactivating the launch, just like the General purposefully leads the rocket to the ocean in The Rock, because he doesn't want to actually kill anybody. Because the reveal in The Rock is that it was all a bluff to get the government to publicly acknowledge and finally do right by their unit, to honor the soldiers seemingly left behind, in true Michael Bay spirit. Shit, I'm surprised they didn't put a big ol' American flag right behind the General during this scene, honestly, because it might as well have been there. I think that's one thing I will slightly give this game a little bit of shit about in aping The Rock. The cinematography here is fun, but I do wish they played with and maybe even tried to mimic some tricks Michael Bay would use in his films. Lots of really visually great shit to pull from. But yeah, just like The Rock, the Colonel didn't actually want to kill anybody. He just wanted the government to do the right thing and do right by the veterans they basically wiped from existence. In doing this, Banks ain't happy, just like the mercs in the film weren't. But now, here's where things finally split away from The Rock. Now in The Rock, the General's right-hand guy explicitly does not betray him in the end. Loyal to him and his goals, even if he disagrees, he dies with him as he's gunned down by the mercs. But here, the mercs are gunned down by the rest of Surge, the Colonel, and Evans. But Major Evans seemingly kills the commander, a seemingly insane move that the rest of the gang don't know how to adjust to, taking this tale of greed and personal vendettas and secrecy, leading people to go to drastic measures to even be taken seriously and acknowledged into now unknown territory. You see the true reveal as to why Evans is doing this is because of the rush, the thrill of the disaster.
What do you want? The money?
This is what I want, Colonel. This rush! Living on the edge! That's why it can't end.
And you see, Evans just loses his goddamn mind. Or maybe he never had it to begin with. And the goons, those poor goons, are all concerned as to if they should follow this clearly depraved madman into his lunacy. But they do. As what is a goon without a boss to max for? I think my favorite bit of Evans' insanity especially is after all of this, Evans still tells Ray where he's going, even with Lisa passed out in his grasp yet again, after you save her from drowning.
Lisa! Hey, Ray! The Colonel's dead! What?
Yeah, I plugged him, but you ought to hang out with us a little longer. We're headed to Port Alex next. It wouldn't be the same without you.
See you there! You psycho!
Like, I was dying watching this. He's so weirdly nonchalant and like chill about telling Rei where the fuck they're going. Like he's inviting his bestie over for the night. It is so good. Reggie called this game laughable, and like, yeah, but while he was using that in a clearly derogatory way, I think it's really charming and again understands the inherent fun and goofball cheese of action movies. Like in my eyes, anybody who would give this game shit for doing things like this and having the voice direction it does should maybe re-examine the action movies and corny ass shit they gravitate to. I'd say from here, the rock inspiration is completely, well, rocked, and the antagonist of the game becomes basically his own deal. Like I genuinely quite adore his boss fight scenes too. Like this playful nature he has where he won't answer till you beat him on this boat. But you beat Evans in like 2 shots. So for a sec I was like, oh shit, phase 2 baby. He's warmed something up because he runs over and like, oh weird, there's like a tarp here and he's undoing it. But then it turns out,
Hey Ray, this is what we gotta do for a tough man like you.
What?
This is an experimental toy from the Marines' arsenal. This ferry provides transportation for our nuclear warheads. It's our lifeline, so to speak. Have to be prepared in case of emergency. And don't you agree?
You gotta be kidding me.
Well, the wind has picked up and has gotten even stronger. Fun, fun, fun!
he just had a fucking Metal Gear the whole time. He just saved it till now. Evans got that shit Ripley used in Aliens. Like, my mans, where did you get Metal Gear Rex from? Did Liquid's ghost mail that shit to you? So yeah, this moment is a complete out of left fielder, and you're doing everything to fight him here, right? You're waggling, you're shooting, you're keeping yourself stocked and blasting him down when he's vulnerable. He's doing that special crazy Dante voice.
He wasn't gonna detonate the nuke, and it had to be done! I think you're getting a little out of your league here. The fun's just getting started, don't you think, Ray?
It's just all clicking. It's all just moving and grooving. But then you beat him, and you finally hear his full reason for why all this shit. Why kill his commander? Why do all this?
Tell me, Ray! You ever get scared as a kid when a storm would come? I did, but I was excited even more. When this mission started, I felt like I did when I was a kid. Earthquakes, tsunamis, eruptions, floods, and now a hurricane? And all this was your idea of a good time? Yeah, I didn't really care about the mission. I just wanted the fun to last. I don't want it to end yet. You sick bastard! Say whatever you want. Helpless humans can do nothing before this natural violence except acknowledge it. If you fear it, then show it respect. Because every disaster is like a gift from God!
He just gets an adrenaline rush. He loves the thrill. He just doubles down on that. He kept telling you where they were going just because he wanted to keep fighting. He knew it was counterintuitive to their plans, and he didn't give a shit. He don't give a fuck about the money. He don't give a fuck about winning. Evans just wants to keep the party going. Dude just wants to fight in all these disasters just because it's fun. He views disasters as a gift from God that humanity can't even begin to stand against, which Ray beats back against with his disaster movie speech about how humanity comes together in times of crisis. And you know, even in the end, he's running away from you, still trying to launch the nuke just because he can. He's being a goofy little menace, stuck on this boat with you. And then the Colonel fucking domes him.
Colonel?
Over your dead body.
Bro really said, you didn't shoot high enough, brother. Right through the fucking brain. Dude, like listen, Monolith, even in Xenosaga 1, put some pretty grisly and disturbing shit in it, but I genuinely just didn't see a death like that coming in a game and a narrative like this. In something like Xenosaga, I was surprised, but given Xenogears, I expected it. But here, I thought I was just gonna beat the shit out of Evans and maybe he'd like fall off the boat or something, but damn, now he's dead. So how do they end this shit off? How do they take this shit off into the sunrise? Well, you disarm the last nuke with a mix of instruction from the Colonel, and at the last minute, a bit of lucky guessing. Nice, tense, cool, really makes you feel like you're disarming that gas bomb in the beginning of The Rock. The Colonel goes down with the ship, clearly trying to repent for what he's caused. Agent Olsen finds you and Lisa on a lifeboat, both of them clearly rekindling their relationship, and Ray says his famous line,
That was one hell of a day.
the line they've tried to make a thing the whole damn time. So I know some of you may be wondering, so what did the disasters have to do with the Rock plot going on at all? Outside of coincidence, basically nothing. See, the whole time, given all of the disasters and how much they'd seemed to plan for these, part of me assumed maybe Surge had some kind of weather machine or something too, cause like, fuck it, you know, they had a Metal Gear, who knows what else they could have had. But no, what is called
the worst day in American history
was quite literally just horrible coincidence. They kidnap Lisa and the professor in the beginning genuinely just to know when the earthquake was gonna happen, and the rest was all just fucking horrible coincidence, which is funny as fuck. It could also have been that like Lisa and the professor were kind of helping them maybe track if another disaster was gonna happen, but they couldn't have predicted all of them back to back like that, because that's insane. Like straight up, the US has like 20 9/11s happen all at once in this game in one day. Every disaster film, and sometimes The Rock, happens in one single day. I love every single scene in this game where it just cuts to the president and his aide. The aide is just like, Mr. President, Blue Ridge just got hit by an earthquake, a fire tornado, and 2 tsunamis back to back. And he's just like, fuck, dude. And the relief at the end, that feel-good disaster movie shit of the president and the mayor of Blue Ridge, who everybody loves and adores, shaking hands. A real unity between the local government and the bigwigs in DC, bringing through the full vibes of the disaster film full circle. Iris reuniting with her parents at the relief center. Ray and Lisa going to Steve's grave to leave his lucky compass there, which, I gotta be real, man, I'd keep that shit, dog. You never know what could happen next. Got him through every goddamn situation in this game. His boyfriend blessed that shit with his spirit. Hell, that's why Ray prays to it so damn much. So you know, you clear the credits. Oh? What's this? A ticket to space? And in this DVD-like menu, an alternate ending? For little old me? Well, what happens there?
Yes, this report is excellent. Well done. Excellent work, everyone. You should be very proud of yourselves. This situation was very trying for all of us, but together, we got through it.
Mr. President.
What is it?
Are you ready for this, sir? NASA just sent this over. This photo shows a newly discovered asteroid, sir.
Asteroid?
According to our scientists' calculations, there's a very high probability that this asteroid will strike the Earth.
Then...
it threatens to destroy all mankind, sir.
Well, gang, you heard him. You don't want to close your eyes for this one. You don't want to fall asleep, 'cause I'll miss you, baby.
And I don't want to miss a thing, 'cause even when I dream of you.
There is a fucking deep impact Armageddon super boss in this fucking game. You just take your guns to space in a bonus shooting range and then just shoot the shit out of that motherfucking thing, bro. I really like the way this is set up too. With your current stats and guns at the end of the game, you cannot beat this thing on a first playthrough, even if you know what you're doing. It encourages you to run back through the game, now with bonus costumes and the addition of the very fun and goofy stamina campaign, where you run around the levels looking for these little signs to get rewards and bonuses. There's even bonus weapons and guns named after different disaster films like Volcano and Twister. Yeah, I can hear you typing, Sammy, those are just the names of things. Twisters and volcanoes are real things. Well, one of them is called Deep Impact. Have you learned nothing? There's just so much here, so much fun, so much joy, so much to just play around with. The shooting ranges, the outfits, the bonuses, there's just so much to keep you running back through again just to see all of it through. Does everything work the best all the time? No, the driving sections could be mixed bags, but I don't really care when so much of this is just so far and above up my alley that I can't help but just have such a great fun time with it all. It's all such a loving tribute to both action and disaster films, while also being a send-up of games like Disaster Report, Metal Gear, and shit like Time Crisis. It's fucking peak, what can I say? Sometimes it can be nice to kick your feet up, grab some popcorn, put on a good disaster flick or action film, and just let it wash over you. And this game captures that feeling oh so perfectly. Picking up a Wiimote, putting this game on, and just barreling through it. If I had had this game as a kid, I would have loved this shit. Junior definitely gets what I mean.
Oops. It's because of all those cheesy action flicks you keep on watching.
Like always, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to all of my patrons. My $5 Rad or Magical Person tier patrons are listed on the screen. I want to give a verbal shout out to my Raddest Magicalist Person tier as well, who are listed on screen and always get a name shout out. Those people are Ginger, Raspe Trash Bear, and Scared Confusion. But thank all of my patrons for your support and believing in this dream of mine. It's seriously appreciated. If you would like to become a patron and get access to work-in-progress video cuts, scripts, and updates about videos, then feel free to check out my Patreon in the description below. I don't have much to say in terms of like a post-video update on this one. This is a shorter video, so I kind of want to keep it pretty quick. This took a little longer just because November was rough. November was a rough month. And yeah, but things are getting better and I'm recovering. Hope y'all are taking care of yourselves. The next few videos are going to be... I'm kind of building up to this big Drakengard project I want to do. So the next video as part of that is going to be Ace Combat 3. And then Pennyblood Hellbound dropped its 1.0 finally. So I'm probably going to play... I want to like do a video on that, but I'm debating if I want to wait until the Pennyblood books are kind of out to kind of talk about all of that in one video, or if I want to split it up. I'm not really sure how I want to do it yet. It might be between Ace Combat and Drakengard, or it might be after Drakengard, but either way, that's probably going to happen sometime soon-ish. Also, I just want to say, thank you all so much for 2,000 subscribers. I didn't think we were going to hit this by the end of the year, but we did! Let's go! I don't know if I want to do anything special for it. I think I just want to... I don't know, because like, subscriber specials, I never really know what people want from stuff like that. If you want something specific, or if you guys would want like a specific thing, just like comment, let me know. Otherwise, thank you all so much for the support. We're going to keep growing. We're going to keep growing this thing. We're going to keep going, right? And yeah, I'm just going to keep grinding away. But yeah, anyway, if you've been subscribed to the channel and you're still here, thank you so much for your support. And again, thank you to all of my patrons. And like always, liking, subscribing, commenting, all that stuff really helps out. I really loved the reception to the Fragile Dreams video. I didn't expect that video to do as well as it did. So genuinely, thank you all for like the support on it. And thank you all so much for vibing with it and for seeing what I was trying to kind of get across. I always kind of worry about getting my feelings across well, and I think I did pretty good with that one. And if you're new to the channel and you're subscribing for the first time, then I want to thank you and welcome to the Coven.